Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet then next week. T&Cs apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Great second evening. A lovely whiff of freshly cooked grass. We're trying to figure out which Aidan O'Brien horse is going to win the Investec Derby. And Man United fans, but they want to sack their manager. It means only one thing: the summer is here and the GAA is back. Yes, welcome along to our GAA podcast in association with Paddy Power. I'm David Jennings from the Racing Post, and I will be with you every Friday for the next 4 months to preview all the action every weekend. Joining me for week 1 is Tyrone legend O'Mulligan, and from our sponsors Paddy Power, we are joined by Patrick Ahern. In part 2, we're going to preview the Hurling Championship, but in part 1, it's all things football, and we're going to start with our quick fire questions. And our first question is to you, Owen, and it is: if you could pick one player from any county to sign for Tyrone, who would it be?
It would have to be Dean Rock of Dublin. Exceptional player, exceptional free kick taker, and he can do it under pressure, and that's what counts when you want that sort of a man on your team.
Okay, wasn't expecting that one now. I thought David Clifford might be top of the list, but no, Dean Rock, fair enough. We need a reliable free taker, so I don't argue with that. Paddy, your first question is: who is the biggest loser in Paddy Power's All-Ireland market?
Oh, this is a comfortable one, and it will be for the rest of the year. Mayo by an absolute mile. We have them for 6 figures now. Normally around this time of the year we always have Mayo for a bit of a loser, but generally they don't go on a good run during the league, so I think we're well past about 200k at this point. I don't know what that's going to end up at. That is going to be absolutely phenomenal by the end of the year, so the sooner we can get them beat, the better. I'm not so sure. I think they are going to go Super 8s this year anyway, and they're going to go quite far, but we're going to have a big sweat if they're still there coming near the end of August, I'd say.
The most loyal punters in Ireland, they are Mayo fans. I'm sure all of them used to back Archibald as well. Okay, number 2 for you, Owen, is: would you rather back Kerry at 9-2 or Mayo at 8-1 to win the All-Ireland?
It's a sticky one there. The two of them fought out the National League final, and it was absolutely brilliant. A great spectacle for the GAA. But I think Mayo's a great price at 8-1. I really do. They've kind of got the monkey off the back when the league and lifting the trophy in Croke Park, and that's what it's all about. But Kerry are coming good with resurgence of Kingsmen, and he seemed to get them playing. If you can keep Donahue, Clifford, and O'Shea fit, they're definitely a good price for that. But I would think Mayo would be a better value at 8-1. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we're all going to agree with that. Paddy, your next question is: what did we learn most from the league?
Yeah, from the league, I think we learned that Aidan O'Shea's best position is midfield by a country mile. He's been kind of messing around at centre forward and even full back for a game in the last couple of years, but midfield is definitely going to be his position. If they're going to do anything during the year, he's going to have to play at number 9 and just stick there. The other thing I think we learned from that league final, not really throughout the round robin stages, but from the league final, I think we kind of learned that defensively Kerry have an awful lot of work to do. They have been dealt a huge blow with Peter Crowley being out. Obviously, Mark O'Connor is down. He's one of the best defenders in the AFL, but he's not going to be playing for Kerry this year. They're going to have to really change something defensively to shore that up. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to be right at the level of All-Ireland winners just yet.
Okay, so we're expecting a big year from Aidan O'Shea. Question number 3 for O'Mulligan: at what stage will your native Tyrone exit the All-Ireland Championship?
Exit. Tyrone would think they would go one step further and lift the title. I think they're definitely a team that can challenge the Dubs. They showed that in the league. All right, league and championships for winning, but at the end of the day, the squad's been there. There's 3 debutants on this week. There's a whole new look about the Tyrone team, a whole new tactics, the long ball, the kicking ball. It seemed to be getting an awful lot of scores for them. But look, I think they've a great chance. All right, last year they got the rub of the green with the draws. They played Division 3 and Division 4 teams right up to the semi-final where they played Monaghan with Division 1 team. But at the end of the day, shaky start in the league, but they win the last 4 games, and that brings momentum into the championship. So I think they have a great chance of going the whole way to the All-Ireland final. I'm going to say the All-Ireland final again.
And is that the heart ruling the head, or the heart and the head saying the same thing?
Of course it is. But at the end of the day, I just think that the team and the whole squad, it's not going to be 15 players that's going to beat the Dubs. It's going to be the full 30, and that's the way it is with Tyrone, and I think that the squad to do that.
Okay, big year in store for Tyrone. Paddy Ahern, your third question is, what is the best value bet this weekend?
If we're just purely looking at this weekend, I think Clare are playing Waterford on Saturday night, and not just cast any aspersions or anything like that, but there's talk that Waterford are going to have a 46-year-old debutant in goals. I've never seen him play. He could be a revelation altogether.
There's hope for me yet, Paddy. There's hope for me yet.
I'm telling you, yeah, he could be. He could prove me completely wrong. He could be unbelievable. There is a fella who loves scoring a goal for Clare called Jamie Malone. If he ever gets any sort of a sniff, his head is straight down, and he gets about 5 chances a game. So, him to score an anytime goal this weekend at about 11-4, I'd say would do. If you kept back in that, I'd say you'd do okay for the year.
Okay, so that name is Jamie Malone for Clare. Okay, dokes. Owen, your next question. Tell us the 8 counties that are going to get to the Super 8s.
That's a tricky one. Obviously, you have the big 4. You have Tyrone, Dublin, Mayo, Kerry. Monaghan will have a shout in there with Meath, Kildare, Donegal. But, Roscommon.
So there's only 8. Oh, that's 10. That's 10. We've only 8.
I would have to go to the newcomers, Meath. I would have to go to the newcomers.
Okay, that's 5. So you've got the big 4. We've got Meath. Right, 3 more.
He's Donegal, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's 6. 2 more.
Kildare.
Oh, 1 more, and there's a few you're leaving out here.
I'm gonna have Galway. I'm gonna have to go Galway.
Okay, so we've got the big 4, and then we've got Kildare, Meath, and Galway. Okay, dokes. Very interesting. And same question to you, Paddy Ahern.
Yeah, it's going to be Dublin, Kerry, Galway, Mayo, Donegal, Tyrone, Meath, and then I'm a little bit caught for the last one. I think Monaghan might be a bit vulnerable. You can back them at 4-9 to get to the Super 8s, but you can also back Cavan at 4-1, or better still, Westmeath are a massive price around there. And Westmeath might have a decent enough run if they can pick up maybe Cork in that. If they can win a qualifier and pick up Cork in that last round before the Super 8s, then they'd nearly be favourites over Cork the way they're going now. And I think Westmeath at a wild price would probably be the only shock out of the 7 or 8 teams that are going to get there.
What price are we talking about there, Paddy?
Yeah, I think we're 9 or 10-1, but there's much bigger out there. There's even double out there if you really want to shop around.
Okay, the one team I'm going to put forward might be Armagh at 4-1. I thought they were a big price to reach the Super 8s. So there you go. Mulligan, your second last question. What team outside the obvious, so not the obvious ones that we spoke about in the Super 8s, what team outside the obvious could surprise a few people this summer?
I have to agree with you there on Armagh. They've been knocking on the door a few years there, and they're playing well. They're a good league campaign. Only missed out by a point in the last game. They're beaten in the last minute. So, McKinney has got them firing well. Good, he's mixed a bit of youth and experience together, so that can all come together in the championship, and he'll be looking to go one step further. There's a bit of pressure on him as well because he hasn't really delivered the way supporters and the committee would want him to. So, that's only good for a manager. That'll be a bit of pressure of delivering, and hopefully he can deliver this year.
Yeah, I concur. Armagh for me as well. Paddy Ahern, your second last question. Give us the name of one forward who could make us rich by backing them in the individual scoring markets each week.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the more higher profile games, I think Cormac Costello's braced for a really big year. Like, this is the first year he's actually got a proper league under his belt for injury or, kind of being in favour in selection or what have you. But he scored 213 in the league this year. He's, apart from Dean Rocky, actually looks to be Dublin's free taker. It looks like Gavin has really kind of put his faith in him this year, and I think he's going to get a starting berth. And I mean, he's shown in kind of All-Ireland finals what he can do off the bench in small kind of periods. I think if he gets a start, he's going to be one that'll really step up for Dublin this year.
Lovely stuff. Cormac Costello could be a man to step up for Dublin this year, according to Paddy Ahern. And the final question to us all is the most important one of all. Oh, Mulligan, who wins the All-Ireland?
I have to go for 5 in a row. I just can't see, as I said, my home county there are great chance of challenging them, but this Dublin team is something else. They know how to finish the job off. Seem to have no pressure, and with the manager, he keeps their feet firmly in the ground. I have to go for Dublin for 5 in a row, because they're just a super side. They're a joy to watch. They play for each other, even with big high profile retirements. They still seem to have the squad and the team to take them forward, and I'll have to go for Dubs this year.
Paddy Ahern?
Yeah, and the same. There's too many holes and all the rest, and it looks to be kind of, even with Kerry with that Crowley news and that kind of stuff, while every other teams might be losing players and might be kind of struggling with injuries, Dublin are actually gaining them, getting Rory O'Carroll and Dermot Connolly, if the news this week is supposed to be believed, is going to be back in the fold as well, which really just increases the competition for places. It's very, very hard. In the next couple of years, Kerry are going to be coming, but I think this year 5 in a row is very, very likely.
Okay, I'm going to throw in Donegal at a big price. I could see Donegal having a big year this year. I think definitely Dublin are the team to beat, but at the prices, Donegal would be the team that I'd side with. I think there's a bit of 22-1 out there. I think that's pretty big. Okay, moving on to this weekend's games. And 3 o'clock Omagh on Sunday. Tyrone kickstart their campaign against Derry. Mulligan, what do we expect from this Tyrone team?
I've said it all along. They're coming good. They're coming good at the right time. They have not a very shaky start in the league, the first 2 games, and then they hit the ground running. And the last 6 or last 5, whatever it was, and they really drove it home that they can challenge anybody. At the end of the day, Derry haven't been a contest for Tyrone probably the last 10 years. The days of Anthony Cole and Sean Murray Lockhart, Paddy Bradley, boys like that. It hasn't been a contest at the Tyrone and Derry games were hot and heavily contested in my day. And Derry and Tyrone games need to be like that for Ulster football. But I fancy Tyrone strongly with a major handicap this week.
And Paddy, just talk us through the prices and handicaps for this game, please.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. Tyrone are 1-10. The draw is 14-1. Derry are 15-2. It's a 7-point handicap. Tyrone 10-11. Handicap draw is 10-1, and Derry +7 is even money.
Now, Mulligan, I heard you on various media outlets during the week saying that this could be double scores, that Tyrone are going to absolutely cakewalk this, that they're in a different league to Derry. Has your confidence waned at all?
I'm sticking by that. I just don't think a Division 4 team can hold a Division 1 team that just missed the playoffs by 1 point. I just don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's ever been done before. So it's a golf in class there. I fancy Tyrone strongly. As I said, beat their neighbours.
And the handicap is 7 points. Do you think that will be passed quite comfortably?
Yes, quite comfortably past that, no problem.
Okay, so we're talking double figures.
They are.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you, Owen. Paddy Ahern, are you going to make the 3 of us agree that they're going to surpass this 7-point handicap?
No, I was a little bit in the opposite of this. So I was kind of looking into this in terms of so this is the first year that Derry would have had their full Slaughtneil contingent for the entirety of the league. In previous years, obviously they won 4 in a row in Derry, and if you looked at the last couple of club All-Ireland kind of contenders and championship in football and hurling, the likes of Cara Finn players, the likes of Dr. Crokes, there was 2 of them in the Kerry team last year. There was no Cara Finn player actually started in the first game for Galway last year. There was no Napierchik game started for Limerick. So there definitely is a little bit of a hangover when players kind of come back in after really long club seasons, that they're slow enough to get started. They miss a few league games. This is the first time Derry have had all those guys, and they're really, really important to Derry. So the likes of Chrissy McCaig, or Brendan Rodgers, that's their spine at 3 and 6. Shane McGuigan was their best player this year. He put up huge scores. Christopher Bradley. So their team is really backboned by the Slaughtneil lads. And like I said, this is the first time they've got a really good run of it, because they're coming into teams in the last 2 years in Division 2 and Division 3 that are getting hockey. They're, maybe not hockey, but they're really, really struggling all year. So they're actually part of a winning team. Winning becomes a little bit of a habit. I don't think they're going to beat Tyrone. I don't think they're at that level. But I definitely think you're going to see a more spirited performance from Derry than we've seen in the last 2 times they've played in Championship, where they've absolutely got annihilated. But I definitely think that Derry are going to come with a bit of a performance. I don't think they have the quality just yet to beat Tyrone, but yeah, I mean, double figures is a fairly big ask. Tyrone are capable of doing it, but I think Tyrone, the way they're playing now these days and the more expensive football that they're trying to show, I think they are going to concede scores as well. And Derry, I know it was Division 4, but they were putting up fairly big scores as well. So I can see kind of a high enough scoring game where Derry are still in it with 15 minutes to go. Okay,
so we're talking, have you Derry points perhaps? You fancy maybe them?
Yeah, so I think we have them up at 13.5. I think they could get over that, because they have reliable free takers. Ryan Bell has taken a couple of frees. Shane McGuigan is taking the majority of frees. They're quite accurate footballers. Kieran McFall is back in as well after being away in America last year. I think they can definitely score with what Tyrone were conceding the league and that kind of stuff. Derry can definitely score over 14. If they score over 14, I think they'll be in the mix to beat the handicap anyway, I think.
Oh, Mulligan, after hearing that compelling case, do you want to change your mind?
No, I don't. I fancy it strongly, and I'm going to stick with that.
Okay, so it's Tyrone -7 for O'Mulligan. Moving on to Park Tolchin on Sunday, and Meath, Division 2 finalists in the league. They commenced their Leinster Championship campaign against Offaly. Paddy Hearn, some prices and handicaps, please.
Yeah, Meath are 1 to 12. The draw is 16 to 1. Offaly is 8 to 1. Meath -7 is 10 to 11. The handicap draw is 10 to 1, and Offaly +7 is even money.
What are we expecting here, Paddy?
Yeah, I mean, I actually looked at the Offaly team yesterday and I kind of fancied it a bit, but then when you think about the game being in Navan, like if you look at Meath's results in the league, I know you don't want to go into the league too much, but like they're beating the likes of Cork, they're beating the likes of Fermanagh, they're beating the likes of Clare by 5, 6, 7 points. They'd all be, comfortable enough 2-3 point favourites over Offaly. I think the home advantage. I think once it gets down to the nitty gritty, I don't think that there is competition that Meath team now for places. Once it really gets down to it, I think Meath will kind of kick on. I think home advantage is going to have a nice say. Like it's in Leinster Championship, it's going to be hard enough to. It's not the easiest handicap to kind of surpass, but I think Meath do have the firepower now as well with Newman back that they can put up a big score. And I think if I was back on either side of it, I kind of wanted to fancy Offaly, but I actually think I'd probably back the Meath side.
Now, O'Mulligan, you fancy Meath to get to the Super 8, so you're obviously a fan of this Meath side.
I'm just thinking back last year, Tyrone had a very tricky tie up in Navan with them. It was into extra time. Cal McShane scored a point in the last minute draw.
Heartbreaking.
Don't talk. I never liked travelling to Meath when I played. They always were our bogey team. But under Andy McEntee, they did well. 2 defeats and 6 wins in the league campaign, getting up to Division 1. So hit the ground running with great momentum. I just think Offaly only just missed the relegation down to Division 4 this year. So I just think that Meath will be far too good for Offaly.
And when you seen this Meath team last year, did you expect them to make the next level this year and maybe gain promotion from Division 2? I
tweeted last year about the game and said I'm not looking forward to this year. A couple of Meath fans tweeted back and saying, "Are you crazy, Muggsy?" I wasn't, because we've always kind of, like, there's been a rivalry with Meath and Tyrone before, but at the end of the day, they've hit the ground running. Their momentum, it's a winning formula, and it's no mistake that they're doing well, and they'll hit the ground running for the Leinster Championship. And Paddy Hearn, this is likely to be high scoring, isn't it? Because you see Meath in the league, apart from Anna, who played a blanket defence, there has been very high scores in Meath games in the league, especially against Donegal as well. Could you see this kind of surpassing the 33.5 points?
Yeah, it'll all be dependent on what Offaly score, I think. I think Meath are going to put up a big score. Like you say, they've been pretty expensive throughout the league. They have a lot of scores in there as well. They've goal scores as well in there, like Barry Dardis if he starts. Tomas O'Reilly has played really well as well. If they're going to bring Graham Riley off the bench, who's always going to be good for a couple of scores. Like me, they're going to hit their target anyway. I have no real worry about that. The only side I would say about that in Offaly was Offaly played 5 games in Division 3 this year. Obviously, it's not great weather and all the rest, but there was a clean sheet. They were held with no goals in 5 of their league games, which is definitely a worry when you're making that step up in class. I would fancy Offaly not to score a goal. So with the totals, you're kind of dependent on Offaly kind of kicking their expected points from play, or from frees, which isn't a given. But yeah, even if it's going that way, I can see Meath kicking on. So if I was on either side of the points, I probably would be over, I'd say. Okay, and O'Mulligan, are Meath going to win by more than 7?
No, I don't think more than 7's a big ask. I know they're high scores. They beat some good teams in Division 2, but I don't know if I go a handicap for Meath in this one. It'll be a good game, and I'm looking forward to it. I still fancy Meath come out the other side, but maybe not a handicap.
Okay, dokes. So we have 5 other games in the Football Championship this weekend, and very, very quickly, Paddy, we're going to get the prices, the handicaps, and we're going to get a quick selection from both of you. So kicking off with Roscommon and Leitrim.
Yeah, Roscommon are 1 to 10. The draw is 14 to 1. Leitrim are 15 to 2. The handicap is 7 points again, even money. Roscommon 10 to 1, and the handicap draw on Leitrim are 10 to 11.
And a prediction?
I would, if I was going on either side of it, I think there was 6 around in Roscommon at the start of the week. Leitrim have lost a couple of players and the league might have taken a bit out of them. It's not a bad Roscommon team. I'd probably go on the Roscommon side of it.
Okay, Mulligan.
Leitrim, good Division 4 campaign, got to the final, but I still fancy Roscommon with that both in Division 1 and Division 4 status. I just think Roscommon will put top.
Okay, so moving on to Wicklow v Kildare. Paddy, some prices and handicaps.
Yeah, it's 1-25 Kildare. The draw's 25s. Wicklow are 10-1. It's a 9-point handicap, 10-11 Kildare. Handicap draw 11s, and Wicklow +9 is at even money.
So I'm telling you now, O'Mulligan, Wicklow are going to stick within this 9-point handicap. Tell me I'm right.
No, I don't know.
No, they will. I'm telling you now, they will. This Kildare team, I think, are going to struggle this year.
I don't look. At the end of the day, had a massive result last year against Mayo, but I think they'll come out on top this weekend. To be honest with you.
Okay. Do you think they'll win by more than 9?
Not a chance. No way.
Yeah. Okay. Paddy Ahern.
Yeah, there's a good few judges around who are really fancying Wicklow for this. We're a 9-point handicap. I think the rest of the industry is kind of around 10. And yeah, I'd be on the Wicklow side of it. They have lost a couple of players, but they still have their better players, if you will, are still going to be there on Saturday night. And like you say, with Kildare, they're a little bit of an unknown this year. They've lost players themselves. So yeah, you could see them. I can definitely see them staying within.
And I'll tell you now, right? There are worse 10-1 shots than Wicklow. This could be one of the better 10-1 shots you're going to get in the championship. I think this is going to be close. I would strongly advise people to back that Wicklow +9. So Tipperary v Limerick, Paddy.
Yeah, Tipperary 1-25. The draw is 25s. Limerick are 10-1. It's a 9-point handicap again, 10-11. Limerick +9, even money. Handicap draw 11-1.
Surely Limerick +9 here, Paddy.
Yeah, that's the way I'd be thinking as well. Again, with Tipperary, wasn't a great. They were missing Quinlivan for a lot of it, but it wasn't a great league. They were good in certain games in Thurles, but I wouldn't describe it as a fortress by any means. And yeah, I think Limerick, there's a lot of quality in that Limerick team as well. I'd be surprised if they didn't stay within now, definitely. Seamus O'Carroll's playing really good football and club football in Dublin, and yeah, there's enough guys there that can definitely stay within 9 points tip.
Yeah, Owen, are we going to make it a hat-trick? Will Limerick keep within 9 points of Tipperary?
Yeah, I fancy Limerick for this one. Nine's a massive ask, but I fancy Limerick, to be honest.
Okay, and our second last game is Clare v Waterford, Paddy. Some prices and handicaps.
Yeah, 1-25 Clare, 25-1 the draw. Waterford are 10-1. Again, 9 points, 10-11 Clare. Handicap draw 11s, and Waterford +9 even money.
And this is your value bet of the weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Jamie Malone in this. I do think that Clare. I think that Clare they're a very good team. They get going. Like I say, he absolutely loves goals. There was a little bit of a doubt with David Tubridy. I'm not sure is he going to be fit, and they've lost Keelan Sexton, who's a real talent, and he's going to be a blow to them. But it'll happen later on in the championship. I don't think it's going to make too much odds in this first round match game down in Ennis. Waterford had a pretty decent league. They obviously have their goalkeeping issues, but it's. I'm not really favouring either side of the handicap. If I had to go one side of it, and if Tubridy starts, you'd probably stick with Clare.
And have you any prices on this 76-year-old goalkeeper getting man of the match, no?
Yeah, nobody's going to give him man of the match unless we get it from the Southern Star or something like that, and they'll just hoodwink us, that kind of.
Yeah, but, he makes one save, he gets man of the match.
Yeah, exactly. No question.
How tight is this going to be, Owen? Is it going to be a cakewalk for Clare?
I think so. What is the minus here, or what is the score here, or what was the
9 again? Here, 9 is it's a recurring team. 9 points.
9. Yeah, I think a cakewalk. You said there's on the cards for this one.
Lovely stuff. And our final match of the weekend, it sees Louth, who didn't fare too badly in the league. They're clashing with Wexford, of course, are in a bit of disarray. Paddy Ahern, some price on handicaps?
Yeah, it's 21-10 Wexford, 15-2 the draw. Louth are 8-15. It's Wexford +2 at even money. Handicap draw 17-2, and Louth -2 at even money.
Do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Wexford won this. I think this Louth team, they're playing a different brand of football. They're more defensive this year in the league. Obviously Wexford are more a championship team than a league team. Would you put me off, Paddy?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one. Like I think Wexford were in a pretty similar situation last year, and I think Laois were sixes on, went up to Wexford and actually drew the match. So you could be onto something. I was quite impressed with Louth in the league. As you say, I thought they set up pretty well. They've seemed to have found a couple of players as well, and your man Kieran seems like a good manager. I think Louth will win the game, but it's far from certainty. Like there may not be much juice in that Wexford price. It all depends on how they're going. But they added your man Beelan this year, who seems to be very accurate from frees at the very least. Your man Barry O'Connor seems to be a very good footballer. So if Wexford are together, they have a chance.
Okay, dokes. O'Mulligan, Louth v Wexford.
Louth, I'm going to have to disagree with you, lads. Louth is a tricky place to go to. It's intimidating. Their crowd is right on you. There's always a draw in the championship. There's always something to pull out of the bag, and I think this one could be tighter than most people expect. I think I'm going to go for a draw on this one.
Okay, dokes. So it's going to be tight, according to O'Mulligan. Louth against Wexford. So now it's time for our best bets of the weekend. Cue Steve Palmer.
This will not be beaten.
Paddy Ahern, your best bet on the first proper weekend of championship action is?
Yeah, I've already mentioned Malone, but I'm actually going to go for no Offaly goals against Meath. It's around the even money mark. You might just get a little bit over that as well if you shop around.
Okay, I am utterly convinced that Wicklow will keep within a 9-point handicap against Kildare. And O'Mulligan, your best bet of the weekend?
I'm going to go for that Tyrone handicap. I just think they'll be too strong for Derry, and I think it'll be in the double figures for the victory.
So there you go. That's your treble in the football championship for this weekend. Tyrone -7, Wicklow +9, and no Offaly goal against Meath. My thanks to O'Mulligan, the Tyrone legend, who gave you all the winners this weekend, to Paddy Ahern from our sponsors, Paddy Power. Don't forget to join us in part 2, where we'll be previewing the Hurling Championship.
Paddy Power Games has over 250 of your favourites to play online, and we're going to attempt to name them all in this 10-second ad before the T's and C's kick in. There's Blackjack, 18+, BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to part 2 of our first GAA podcast of the season, and I'm joined by Paddy Power representative Paddy Ahern. And Paddy, a cracking hurling championship in store. Last year, obviously, was a terrific year for hurling, and this year it's set up to be just as good. Just talk us through the prices for the All-Ireland title.
Yeah, no problem at all. Limerick are our favourites at 10-3. Galway are 10-3 also. Cork are 11-2. Tip are 6-1. Kilkenny are 6-1. Clare 9-1. Waterford 12s. Dublin 22-1. Wexford 28-1. And Carlow prop it up at 1,000-1.
Okay, so I've got 6 quick-fire questions for you, Paddy. And the first of those is, who is the biggest loser in Paddy Power's All-Ireland hurling book?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised when I went back on this because I thought it was Limerick clearly, but Limerick and Waterford are actually neck and neck. Both of them are the same figure, so there are only 2 losers in the book. Everyone else is kind of running for us as it speaks now, but all that takes is one big tip and Cork win and people to start getting on those bandwagons as well. But it's Limerick and Waterford at the minute.
Wow, I would have picked 10 teams and Waterford would have been at the bottom of that list, I think, as your worst loser. Okay, question number 2. What did you learn most from the league?
Yeah, it's a nice intro into this because I think it's no coincidence that the top 2 losers in the book are the 2 teams that got to the league final. But I think what we're going to learn most from this hurling league as we go on through the seasons and as we start with this season is that it's just going to become less and less relevant. You can see how teams kind of approached it, where Cork are coming off the field after losing to, age-old rivals like Tipperary and Kilkenny, and John Myler sitting there giggling and laughing away to people and shouldering like all this kind of stuff. It's just a fact now that I think the majority of the teams don't target it. They just see it as a tool to unearth players, which in fairness it kind of does. Diarmuid Ryan has come in for Clare this year. Billy Ryan has looked very, very good for Kilkenny in the couple of games that he's played. Tim O'Mahony has been found. Even Brian Concannon kind of stepped up a bit for Galway. But it's not a tournament that people want to just target, win and then go win the championship. It was big for Limerick this year, I think, because there might have been talk inside their own camp as to how it's, a Limerick team like that isn't going to do back-to-back and they're going to go celebrating wild and all this kind of stuff. So it was important for them to have a good league under their belt and show that they think they are the best team in the country. But for everybody else, I don't think there was a single other team outside 1B that targeted it, and people are just tipping away, not really caring if they're losing games and just trying to unearth a few players.
Okie dokes. Question number 3. What is the best value bet this weekend?
The best value bet, I think, that of a couple of prices. I do fancy Dublin to give Kilkenny a right rattle. I think they'll beat them. There's one price out there you can get 12-5 Dublin to beat Kilkenny. I think that's probably the best value bet event that I've seen this weekend so far.
And the bad news for you is that I agree. Okay, question number 4. Tell me the 4 counties that will reach the All-Ireland semi-finals.
Yeah, it's a great market because since the 2 leagues came in for Munster and Leinster, it's just so it's just 1 or 2 results can kind of knock people left, right and centre. I think at the minute that the 4 teams that are going to make it through are going to be Galway, Tipperary, Cork and Limerick.
Okay, interesting. Okay, question number 5. Give us the name of one forward that could make us rich this summer in the individual scoring markets. We love them markets, priced up usually on the day or maybe the day before. Nothing better than backing Patrick Horgan to score over 8.5 points and he gets 14 points. So who's the one that's maybe we can make a few bob from this year?
Yeah, the one that might just come under the radar. I mentioned a bit earlier on, there's this young 19-year-old for Clare called Diarmuid Ryan. His brother was Clare former centre-back Conor Ryan. This guy was playing centre-back for his club last year at 18 when they went to the Clare County final. He's a class act. I've seen him in a couple of league games. I saw him playing club last year. He'd be averaging about 3 or 4 points every game. If people haven't kind of copped onto that, they probably will after I've said it now. But he's a real eye for a score, and in terms of man the match, markets and stuff like that, I think early season he might be underestimated, but at the end of the season I very much think he won't.
Okie dokes, and your 6th and final question is, who lifts Liam?
Yeah, it's so wide open. If there were no prices involved, it's very, very hard to call out. But I think that the prices are around. I think Galway are being massively underestimated. Basically, the camp, from what I'm hearing, is basically on lockdown now. They're really kind of sensitive about all their information. There's a bit of a chip on their shoulder there. They don't like this talk that's coming out that they are just a one-man team and they're going to do nothing until Joe comes back and all the rest. But if you think about it, if they do get out of Leinster, things are kind of conspiring for them in Leinster with all the Kilkenny injuries, the route that Wexford are going to have. I think they'll come out of Leinster. If they come out of Leinster and Joe gets back for kind of All-Ireland semi-final, it's going to be the same prices as they were last year. It's very hard to see them going off outsiders against too many teams in the country. If they're there or thereabouts again with that little bit of hunger back after what happened last year. I was a bit pessimistic after the last game of the league, as you would be looking at the injuries, but I've come around to the fact now that I think that if they're there in the business end, Galway are going to be definitely a force to be reckoned with again.
When we had our Racing Post supplement out on Thursday, and I was going back through last year's championship, and the biggest shock out of everything, every result, every little bit of detail of research that I did, was that there was 1 point in it in last year's All-Ireland final.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
That's incredible. Like, people think, Limerick, best team, they did this, they did that. Galway didn't play particularly well, and there was 1 point in it.
Yeah, they were. In fairness, like the first half of that game, they were brutal. They were absolutely awful. And as I was saying, coming out of Croke Park that day, they were hammered by a point. But at the same time, they were still, thereabouts. Like if Mulcahy doesn't step up and throw that over the bar, if Joe's range is another 10 yards or whatever, you're looking at a replay, which I think everybody in the country would have kind of said that Limerick's chance were gone then. So like, that'd be my one thing. We'll probably get onto it a bit more, but like, Limerick have had a great league. They have a very good panel and they have a system that is working for now, but it was working in the league, like I say, against teams that I don't believe were fully wound up. I think the Limerick love-in and the hype train is just a little bit overboard for my liking in terms of a Munster Championship that's an absolute, complete and utter bear pit. Like, they have to go down to Walsh Park and trying to get a result that's going to be very, very hard. They have to go to Thurles, which in fairness is, in terms of the home venues, isn't the hardest game, but every game you play against Tip is going to be very, very difficult. And they're going to play Clare, who believe in their own mind that they're better than them because they beat them 10 points down in Ennis last year. And they'll have to play Cork as well, who, regardless of how they get on against, like, even if they lose against Tip, they're going to have to pretty much get something out of that to possibly save their season. Their tails are going to be up if they win the match, and they're really going to feel like the old Limerick won last year after being 6 points up with 9 minutes left. You know, that kind of
up nicely.
Like, everything that Limerick face this year is arguably going to be like nothing they faced before. There's a big target on their back now, and every game is going to be hugely attritional. Yeah,
I'm going to say something very controversial now, but I have a feeling they won't even get out of Munster.
Yeah, it's not beyond the realms. It's not a huge price either. I think it's about 11-4 we have it on site.
Okie dokes. So moving on to this weekend's games, and of course the Leinster opener on Saturday night, Nolan Park, Kilkenny v Dublin. We get some prices and handicaps, Paddy.
Yeah, the prices are Kilkenny are 1-2, the draws 9-1, Dublin are 21-10, Kilkenny -3, 11-10, the handicap draws 11-1, Dublin +3 is 5-6.
So no Owen Murphy, no Killian Buckley, no James Maher, no Conor Delaney,
Yeah,
and now Joey Holden has pulled his
And
hamstring. So
Joey-
surely this 11-5 Dublin, get on.
yeah, Joey holding out as well, and it looks like Richie Hogan is going to be really, really struggling all year. It's just like he's a joy to watch when he's on the pitch, and I think any hurling fan wants to see him on the pitch, but it just seems to be getting so difficult for him every year as every year goes on. You know, that kind of way. Holden, I think, is the big one. So obviously we had all this kind of factored in. We knew that Buckley was going to be out. We knew that Murphy was going to be out after their round of club games. Murphy's a massive loss as well, because I can't remember the last goalkeeper. Jesus, I'd say you're nearly going back to Herity or to the last Kilkenny goalkeeper that I can remember that played apart from Owen Murphy. So like, I think it's going to be Darren Brennan who's in there, but that's a big ask for him to come in his first game. But Holden, he had a really good club season. Him gone from full back, that means your first choice full back and centre back are probably going to be on, unless you're kind of makeshifting and bringing Pádraig Walsh from midfield back to full back, which they really shouldn't do, because Walsh looks like he's a revelation at midfield. It looks like he's totally comfortable there. Conor Delaney was having a great league as well. He looks a real kind of a swashbuckling hurler. Like he's very, very good too. He's going to be gone, so it looks like it'll be Deegan, Paddy Deegan and Hugh Lawler who are going to be kind of at 3 and 6. But that's the last thing you want entering your first game in the Leinster Championship with kind of Deegan played very well last year. The two of them are very good hurlers, but it's a big step to ask them to come in. Kilkenny's forwards are still quite decent, but like, I think the pressure, if you looked at that league semi-final, the pressure that Dublin put on Limerick around the middle third, Dublin's biggest problem that day was that they didn't have a confident enough ball winner in the forwards because Liam Rush was gone. Sutcliffe was very good for periods of the game, but then he kind of went out of it when possession was kind of harder to come by. Rush is going to be back there as well. Like if Dublin can get those ball winners kind of competitive in that Kilkenny half forward line, they could cause them real trouble. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. Like I do think it's going to be quite like that Limerick semi-final, in the sense it's going to be the middle third is going to be quite crowded, and it's not going to be the greatest spectacle. Like I don't think it'll be like Parnell Park was last year, but I think if all that happens, I think it's going to play into Dublin's hands as well.
So we're in agreement that Dublin are going to win this one?
Yeah, Dublin me my fancy for it. Like they have an awful lot of talent throughout the pitch. That half back line, they kind of get Sean Moore and free. Crummy was exceptional last year, and there's no reason why you can't be again. And I thought Shane Barrett was, himself and Garage Hegarty had a good old battle that day. Owen O'Donnell is, phenomenal hurler. Like he looks like himself and Darry Burke is two of the best fullbacks, and they're the best fullbacks in the country. And I think the one thing, like where the winner of the game is going to be, is if that is kind of an unexperienced kind of a Kilkenny full back line. If Eamon Dillon can get space, and if he can run a Kilkenny, Dublin will get a hell of a lot of joy out of it. I think he's 15-2 for the first goal. If they can get him on the ball, I think Dublin have a massive chance.
Okay, Eamon Dillon, first goal, 15-2, and Dublin to win the match at 21-10. So moving on to the first round of the Munster Championship on Sunday. Oh, what a game we have in store. Cork v Tipperary. Prices, please, Paddy. This is going to be a cracker.
It's going to be a great game. Yeah. Cork are 10-11. The draws 8-1. Tipperary 6-5. Cork -1, 11-10. The handicap draws 10-1. Tipperary +1 is 5-6.
Well, Paddy Hearn, I've been telling anybody that will listen to me that Cork are going to lift Liam this year. Tell me I'm right.
I'm not so sure. There's so much on the line for this game. It's absolutely brilliant, because you're right under the cosh. Like I say, if Cork lose, they have to go to Limerick next week. Tipperary have very, very tricky away games, and you've seen with Tip before, like if they get a bit of a wobble, it can be hard to come back from it. So like this is a massive, massive game for both teams. I think Tipperary traditionally don't have a great record down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh going back over the years, but I think there's something different. I just got the feeling throughout the whole league that both teams were holding something in reserve, but I definitely felt that way about Tipperary. I just thought it was they're kind of they just coasted their way throughout the whole league, and Sheedy was making these kind of noises about how he was disappointed and all this kind of stuff. But like, if you think back to Mick Ryan last year, he was kind of saying that the league, if he had to change anything for Tipperary, it would have been how he managed April and how he managed the league last year, because he didn't think it played into their strengths. I think that was in Sheedy's head the whole time. They have an under-21 team coming through who won the All-Ireland, who weren't expected to win the All-Ireland. He can add a few of them guys in. Apart from that, he still has one of the best forward lines in the country. The backs are definitely with the weak point, but I think there's a kick in Tipperary big time, and I think that if I was having a bet on this game...
Don't say it.
I'm not going to back Tip on the match. I would actually back them -5 or something like that. -5, -6. Because if Tip win,
God.
I swear,
what are you doing to me?
I swear, if Tip win, they're the one team that have the capability that if it gets drawn really tight games like we saw in Munster last year, they can nearly be outfought. But if they get into a cruise, if they hit peak on Sunday, like they can hammer teams in a blink of an eye. Yeah, if I was having a bet, it would definitely be something like that. I think -5, -6. I think it's around 9-2, 5-1. I'd be having a saver on that because, yeah, definitely if they hit, like I say, if they hit top form, they're very, very hard to dilute.
Well, I think you're going to be about 10 points wrong. Because I think Cork are going to win this game comfortably, and they're going to be the new favourites for the All-Ireland. I think this Cork side, I think this year is going to be their year. So moving on to the other Munster clash, it is, of course, at Walsh Park. It's Waterford v Clare.
Yeah, Waterford even money. The draw 8-1, Clare 11-10. Waterford -1, 5-4. Handicap draw 10-1. Clare +1 is 8-11.
And I think the big factor here, obviously, Paddy, is the game is in Walsh Park, and the prices would look very different if it was anywhere else.
Yeah, you'd have to expect so. Like, obviously, the two biggest advantages for teams in the Munster Hurling Championship this year is the home advantages of Ennis, which is an absolute fortress, and Walsh Park, which we believe is a fortress because we haven't really seen that many championship games there in the last 20 years or whatever, but just judging by league matches and judging by Waterford's form there, they generally seem to have a huge advantage, and it's a very tight pitch, which will kind of play into how this game is going to be played. So I think I don't see it being mad high scoring. I think it can come down to nearly a shootout between Tony Kelly and Jamie Barron. If the two of them can kind of get free rolls, if people aren't kind of detailed on mark and duty for the two of them, like the two of them can kind of score 5-6 points each from play, and I think that's kind of what it's going to come down to. I didn't have like a huge amount of goals or anything in this. All the money we've seen early week and in the run up is for Waterford. I can see why. Like they had an impressive league. There's a lot of their players seem to be playing very well, but I'd be very slow to underestimate Clare at the same time. Shane O'Donnell is back now. Like I said, they added Gernard Ryan, Aaron Shanaher. It's the first time he's going to have a full season under his belt in a couple of years. Conor Cleary is a loss now. There's talk there's talk that Jack Brown is going to play centre back, which he wouldn't be used to at an inter-county level. But Clare have been so quiet over the last month. There's nobody really talking about them. We're seeing little nibbles on them for the All-Ireland as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a big performance in them, but like I do think the draw is a big runner here as well at 8-1.
And what price is the draw? 8-1?
It's 8-1, yeah. I think it's going to be very, very tight.
Okay, doke. So we're expecting a tight encounter at Walsh Park on Sunday between Waterford and Clare. So all that's left to do now is reveal our best bets of this weekend's Hurling Championship.
This will not be beaten.
Paddy Ahern, your best bet of the weekend in the Hurling Championship is?
I'm going to go for under 1.5 goals in Clare Waterford. You can get anywhere from 3-1 to 4-1 in it, but yeah, like I say, I don't think in the league there wasn't huge high goal tallies in either team's games, and I reckon it's going to be a very tight one.
Okay, doke. So I'm going to keep it simple because I think that Dublin will come away from Nolan Park with a win. So I'm going to tip Dublin at 21-10 to get their Leinster Championship campaign off to a flying start. So that's it for this week's show, folks. My thanks to O'Mulligan, who joined us in part 1 for the football. My thanks to Paddy Ahern from our sponsors, Paddy Power. I've been David Jennings. Don't forget to join us every Friday for the rest of the summer.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18+, begambleaware.org.